Hey guys, Sanctum here, and I'm really excited to bring you the full Death Trap endgame guide, a build of insane tankiness, insane DPS, and insane mobility. But before, a word from our sponsors. This video is sponsored by the Crimson Market, a Diablo 4 trading website that is really easy to use. It comes with an AI-powered search engine to help you find exactly what you need, and posting your items is a simple screenshot away. Also, by joining the club, you can get a chance to earn absolutely insane computers. By claiming the golden ticket, you get 30 days of royal tier for free, which means you can earn one of these crazy PCs without paying a single dime. The longer you stay in the club, the more loyalty points you earn, and the higher your odds of winning become. I mean, imagine winning this last epoch computer. I hope I get it for myself. Anyways, back to the guide. So we covered how to get the build going in the previous video, so if you're still starting out, link to the video is in the description and you can check it out, and then once you get better gear, you can refer back to this one. So how do we spam Death Trap? How do we spam Death Trap without using any other skill in between? And the answer is simple. You need 225 maximum energy or more and a 15-second or lower Death Trap cooldown. That's it. That's all you need. So how do we get there? Well, there's a couple things we need. First, to get the maximum resource, we need boots, peaceful boots, the boots we're using, with the maximum resource, either GA, Masterwork. You need a certain combination to help you raise your maximum resource, and also on your helmet. I'm using Shaco right now, but you don't need to use Shaco. You can use a rare helmet with maximum resource. It doesn't, if I remember correctly, to get to 225, you don't even need GA on it. Just a few Masterworks and you're good to go. And then, because we use Momentum multiplies all our maximum energy once we have full stacks. And then we're ready to go. We have 225 energy, we're solid. How do we get 15 seconds or lower Death Trap cooldown? Well, that one's actually a bit harder. Ignore the Starless. We're gonna be having, at this point in the game, two rings with Death Trap cooldown, right? And if we don't have cooldown reduction on our helmet, it might be a bit tough to reach 15 seconds. What really helps is having core skills on your gloves. Look, these gloves suck, and they're not even fully masterwork. You need core skills on your gloves because the higher the rank on your Death Trap, the lower the base cooldown, which then gets reduced by the ultimate cooldown, right? And then you also get core skill ranks on Banished Lord's Talisman, which we start using once we move into this version that just spams Death Trap, right? So that's what we do. That's where we get our CDR from. And then another little trick, which I don't have to use anymore, so I'm not using it, is that we, on the starter version, take, if I can find it here, we take these nodes at the start, these trap CDR nodes, right? We enter through here, we get this as our first board, so we get the bonus, right? The 2x bonus. And these also help a lot reaching the 15-second CDR mark. You could probably be at 16 seconds and it'll be better than the starter version, but you can't really go higher than that. You really need 16 seconds or lower. And that's when the build really starts to shine, right? Because we can just spam Death Trap. That's it. Oh, and something I forgot to mention is that something that really helps you reach the energy requirement is the Elixir of Resourcefulness. I have this going pretty much all the time. I never not use it. Well, I guess now when I'm doing bosses, I don't need the experience from bosses. Bosses don't give much experience. And I basically one-shot them, so I don't really need to pop it, right? But before this point, I basically had this on all the time, and it really helps reaching that 225 mark, you know? And later on, you needed to reach the 275 mark, which I'll explain in a bit. So, what about the items? What changed? Well, like I said, we still use Peaceful. This is insane. And something that people have been asking me is, how do we consume our resources with Death Trap, right? Because Death Trap is not a core skill. Well, but it is core skill. Because when you use Scoundrel's Leather, it becomes a core skill and an ultimate skill. And that's what let us spam it, right? Because it fulfills both Peaceful requirements at once. And that's basically how the build works. So we use Peacefuls. We still use Ice in the Dark. Still use Scoundrel's Leather, of course. Here at the start, we use the Max Resource Helmet, a rare helmet. I chose to use Juggernaut on it for more armor to be a bit tankier, but you can also use Umbras, and because I used for runes, I used Mott, which gives me Dark Shroud, so I could use Juggernaut and have more armor, be tankier. Because at the start you're not that tanky. Later on you're immortal, but at the start you're not that tanky. So I used Juggernaut, and on the runes Mott, I really didn't need more damage from my runes. And what we add, the new addition, is Banished Lord's Talisman. So what's up with this, right? When we spend 275 of our primary resource, our next core skill, remember, Death Trap is a core skill, overpowers. And if we crit, that overpower does more damage. And because we cast Concealment before a Death Trap, and this makes it always crit, although I will mention there's a bug that makes it so not all the Death Traps spawn crit, but most of them do. So it's good enough, you know? And once we reach the 225 maximum energy breakpoint, that lets us spam this, we get the overpower BLT to proc every 2 casts. And the next step is getting into 275, right? That's a bit harder, you know. The requirements are tougher because basically you need more max resource while keeping the cooldown. It's harder. But at the start we still want this. We still proc it every two death traps. It's still really good, right? And here we still use, you know, our old rings with death trap cooldown, with life, with dex, with attack speed, all rest, all the good stuff, you know, and the grenade aspects. In the end, later, we swap to Starless, right? Because, you know, again, Death Trap is a core skill. We get core skills, we get attack speed, we get damage, we get everything we want, right? From Starless. So eventually we move on to Starless, but they start just any ring, you know, with life, dex, attack speed, all rest works. And then same here. We can still use the same swords we were using before, and later on we swap to Doombringer, because the way Overpower works and why it's so strong is because the overpower damage it gives you scales with your life, right? And it scales pretty insanely with your life, right? Right now I have 31k life. I'm pretty sure if 41k life, and this multiplies it, you know, and this actually not only makes us immortal, basically, it's even more damage than a normal sword with an aspect, which is pretty insane, right? Here, still the same. I'm pretty sure this is actually the same bow I was using in the first video, so yeah, same bow. It's mostly the same build, only harsher requirements, right? 225 energy, 15-second death trap cooldown. That's all you need. Now, how do we reach the next level? What mythic do I craft first? Right, because the mythics are important. The build is insane without the mythics. Yes, it's insane. But the mythics take it to the next level. And what's the most important mythic? Well, the most important mythic is Shaco. Because Shaco gives us maximum life. I explained how much we scale with maximum life. It gives us max resource, which we need to hit the breakpoints. And it gives us cooldown, which eases up on the requirements to get to 15, you know, to the 15-second death trap cooldown to spam it, right? So Shaco is just a build enabler. It makes us tankier. It's really good. So the first mythic should always be Shaco. And what do we need to reach 275? So right now I have 242. But if I pop my elixir, yeah. So give me a second. There we go. 275 out of 274. This is just a rounding error. I actually have 275. It works. If you can see, my BLT that says 275, it's always there, which means it's always proc. Anyways, how do we reach 275? We need GA maximum resource boots with 2 masterworks, and we need 2 masterworks on our Harlequin crest, or a GA on the max resource. Either one, right? This is what we need. This is mandatory to reach the next level, right? The true endgame version of the build, which makes use of BLT and lets us basically get BLT every single cast off, right? That's the goal. That's it. Shaco. That's all you need. Shaco and the boots. And for CDR, well, because Shaco gives us so much CDR, it's so easy to get down to 15 seconds, right? It's really not hard. Again, if you need to, there's no shame in it. If you need to, if for some reason, let's say your ring is not fully masterwork, maybe you hit a low roll on the cooldown, just you know, just pick this up. Just use the mid-game board. There's no problem with that, you know? That's how you get to the end game. And then it's just adding items, right? It's adding Starless. It's adding Doombringer. I would say, out of those two, I would say Doombringer is more important. It just makes you immortal and it's a lot of damage. Starless might be slightly more damage. I would have to check. And in any case, it's making getting the cooldown requirement a bit harder, right? Because it's just easier if you have 2 rings, right? So the second item you ideally get is Doombringer. And then what else is important? I guess I should mention something important is using Rahir with the right setup. We want Rahir with shield charge. Why? Because it gives us Fortify. And Fortify plays into the whole overpower thing by doubling, well, if you have 100% of your life fortified, which is showed by this frame around your life, it doubles the overpowered additive damage you get from overpower, basically, which is kind of crazy, right? Essentially, Rahir is giving us double damage, right? Which is crazy. And then again, we use Brianna, knocks down, it gives us knockdown, it doubles the bonus of Malice, all good. You know, it doesn't proc too often, but well, you know, the reinforcement is never too good, so we take what we can. And for boss powers, if we still need help with the CDR, we can use Urvar, right? Urvar's Lot Bomb, gain 50% cooldown reduction. You know, that's fine. Eventually, we do want to move to Beast in the Ice Fleet. What this does is it lets us activate Frigid Finesse, right? Because it freezes, which is pretty nice. Other than that, we use Wandering Death's Chest Beam, which is something I changed. And you might be wondering why. Well, essentially a 25 execute on elites amounts to a 33% more damage on elites, right? But this doesn't work against bosses. You think, okay, maybe let's say a power like Flesh Reapers, which gives us 20% more damage against everyone, is better than 33% more damage against only elites. Not quite. Why? This build does insane boss DPS, much stronger than the elite DPS. Why is that? Well, to understand that, you gotta read Supreme Death Trap. Enemies that resist Death Trap pull-in are hit again for 180% of Death Trap's damage. And this is important because if you're the elite, it's not unstoppable, it doesn't resist the Death Trap pull-in. Also, if it is unstoppable, you're missing multipliers such as Frigid Finesse. We don't have too many CC-based multipliers, but we are missing some, such as Frigid Finesse, right? So basically our elite DPS is way lower than our boss DPS, where this is always activated, right? So that's the reason why I chose to use this to boost up my elite DPS because my boss DPS was good enough. And then we use Harbinger of Hatred's Bali, right? Like before, and Cinderella's Flames, just more damage, yeah. And what are we using for abilities, right? We're using Caltrops for more damage. And remember how I mentioned that Concealment is bugged and it doesn't make all our Death Traps crit? That's why I get Disciplined Caltrops instead of Methodical, right? Just because of that, to make it so the Death Traps that don't automatically crit have a higher chance to crit, basically. And still Concealment, we want to spam Concealment in Death Trap. And I guess I might mention a slightly unethical tip. You can macro Concealment in Death Trap. It's quite easy. You can literally just say on the macro, right, on your mouse software, cast Death Trap, cast Concealment, start over again, repeat. Basically, it's that easy. There's no need to play with the timings or anything because Concealment has a 0-second cast time. I was actually kind of surprised when I tested it. It has a 0 to 1 frame cast time, which is basically 0, right? And I say slightly unethical because really, nothing's gonna happen to you. No one, I don't think Blizzard cares, but you know, I try to spam. I try to play ethically, but if you want to preserve your wrist, the smart thing to do would be that. And then we just take a smoke grenade, right? Or subverting to poison. So this was pretty important before, the poison on the smoke grenade, because we want proc alchemical advantage. Nowadays, I started using Poison Trap. I dropped Shadow Step. Why? Well, because since we're spamming Concealment, basically, and it's always up, it's impossible for us to be CC'd, for the most part. And I didn't really need the mobility from Shadow Step either, because I just spam dash, right? I'll show you. See, you're just spamming dash. You never stop dashing, right? And so I just didn't ever use Shadow Step, so I just dropped it for more damage and to easily get the poison up, right? For alchemical advantage. You also might be wondering, why am I not taking any passives that give me damage reduction? Well, the build is literally immortal without it. In fact, I actually dropped all the damage reduction all the damage reduction, all the resistance, all the armor, everywhere on the board, because I just couldn't die even without it. I just can't die. I'm too tanky, right? I literally don't take damage. No monster can even break my barrier, right? So that's why I do that, right? Anyways, back to the skills. So we covered Poison Trap. We had a Poison Trap for more damage. Knockdown, remember how I mentioned Brianna is good because it knocks down, which increases the value of Malice. Well, Poison Trap does the same, which is nice, you know? Well, Death Trap, of course, right? Something that's really important for me to mention, I almost forgot, Aftermath ranks. How many do we need? Well, to spam Death Trap, once you have 275, right? Once you're at 275 energy, you need 9 ranks of Aftermath. What does this mean? This means either a GA on your pants, with no masterwork. I actually hit once accidentally, because once I go to 9 out of 12, this will go to 8, which will be 1 more than I need, right? So you just need a GA or 2 masterworks. And something I guess I'll mention while I'm here, because I keep forgetting, right, about stuff, right? People ask me, so should I use these Eye in the Dark with 3 GAs, 4 GAs, but a low percent? Does the percent matter? Yes, this percent matters, right? For example, right now, here, by having a 125% instead of 150%, I'm probably losing like 20% damage, you know? The percent on the aspect matters. So what's better, 2 GA life, which is the second best GA, and Aftermath and a lowered percent, or 150% and just 1 GA? Let's say Aftermath old life. No, it's better to get 1 GA, right, and a high percent. And if we have no GA, well, no GA straight up not doable. Once you reach the 275 version, it is doable on the 225 because we have less need for Aftermath, right? In the 225 one, if I'm not mistaken, we only need rank 7 Aftermath, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's rank 7. So to get rank 7 is quite easy. You can use non-GA pants even, and it'll work. Another thing I'll mention, because I've gotten quite a few questions about it, is what about the Paragon? Because it looks kind of weird, right? I mean, you can see it. I'm taking these random ass dex notes. Random ass deck notes here. I'm taking none of the additive damage. Like, for example, I'm not getting these 20% trap damage nodes, which is pretty good. Why? First of all, baseline, if your Paragon level is low, do not start spamming dex notes. Just grab all the important stuff, activate your glyphs, get the legendary nodes, get the life nodes, you know, get all that good stuff. And then, once you get all that, you start spamming dex nodes. Why? Because life gives us so much overpower damage, literally upwards of 20, 30, even 40k additive damage. Well, 40k maybe not, but 30k additive damage. Getting 20%, 10% more, 20% more, it does nothing, right? 5 dex is worth more than any amount of additive you can get from your nodes. So the actual best way to boost our damage is just grabbing dex. And since we don't need more DR, we're tanky enough, we're immortal, just grab dex. That's it. We get the nearest dex node. Once we run out of the, because I'm not sure if I have any more that are right near me. Okay, you see, okay, for example here, I can move 1 and then just grab 3 dex nodes, and we do that, right? And then maybe in the end, when your Paragon level is pretty high, it makes sense to reorganize a bit your board, but it really doesn't matter because in the end you're just grabbing dex nodes. It doesn't matter. You know, blame Blizzard. Don't hate on me. It's not my fault the board's this way. We used to have more boards, right? But now we just grab X nodes, at least on this build. So we're coming to the end, right? What's next for the build? Is the build final? Is any other video gonna come out? And the answer is that yes. I'm actually cooking an even better build. Well, even better build. This build is insane for everything, right? It's actually better than the next build that's coming out. For almost everything except high pit pushings, right? So if you care about high pit pushing, you're gonna want to watch the next video because I'll go over a build that actually does about 2 to 2.5x more damage. I still have to do some math. I have to test some things. So I gotta fine tune it before I make the video, and I put it in the guide, which it'll be in the Mobalytics guide. That's in the link below. A bit earlier than the video comes out. It should be maybe tomorrow. In the video the day after, we'll see. But yeah, that build will do about 2 to 2.5x more damage. it's just way squishier. It's harder to gear for. It just, for general play, it's not worth it. For 99% of you, it's not worth it. But for the 1% that really wants to pit push, that wants to show off their big numbers, screenshot trillion in the damage hits, then yeah, it's for you. Anyways, that's it for the guide, guys. See you next time.